Previously on Anything Goes.
You were almost, if I had put this happy face there, you would have sent me a picture of your cock.
I would have seen a picture of my dick. Why not? I'm like, oh, we're playing this game now.
All right, let's see.
You know what? I just want to be
Dave
liked.
says cock, Jay says dick. That's really cute. What's the difference?
But cock sounds bigger.
Yeah, it sounds like something you should be afraid of.
I think cock implies heft.
Yeah. There's like a, you need
Then
a
why did Dave use that?
I don't know. I've never seen Dave's dick, but by those
Me
dance
neither.
moves I saw in that video, he is confident.
Oh, yeah.
That is the confidence of a man with a cock. A heavy dangle cock.
The way you danced in Vegas,
just
you might have a cock.
or a pocket full of fuck pills. Who knows? What was the...
A dick retracts like a switchblade and
No, it's only...
has
you
no
can-
hang until
it-
you're excited.
It's only available to be seen right before it's ready for entry. It's just, it's not, you cannot...
Is that your rule?
That, yeah,
Me
that's
too,
my,
dude.
my sort of
Totally.
rule. Yeah.
I judge any dude when I ask a question about him with a big dick. It's not whether it's big or not. When it's hard, I'll always want to know. I go, are you confident enough to pull your dick out completely soft and be like, hey, here it is? And man, I am not.
No, it's like, I'll...
Check again with me in 50 pounds.
And now, let's get to a new exciting show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for some laughs? Are you?
At least your life isn't as sad as ours. This is Anything Goes with Darren Frost,
How the fuck am I funny?
Dave Martin,
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
and Kathleen McGee.
And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
Can you dig it?
One thing I wanted to ask you, Shannon, we interviewed Marla Lukofsky about kind of the old days. And what's interesting for your journey is you didn't start in a big market.
No.
You started in Saskatoon.
Mm-hmm.
And really, Saskatoon was a pretty big show in terms of size and venue that you started in. So you would see some really big comics really kill rooms.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Like Brent Butt coming through on his first headline tour. That place was packed every single show. Sold out. It was awesome to see. The room in Saskatoon was really great at the time. It was in the Sands Hotel, and they had, I mean, they could section the room off. So there was like a whole back half of the room that you wouldn't even see because they could put up this wooden border. And so they could find the space to make it a smaller room, or they can open it up. And it was always great when you go in and the whole back half is open. You're just like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. So,
But for you, like the reason I bring up that you saw these comics kill is because then you would probably come to Toronto and then see comics not always kill. You know what I mean? In certain type of venues. Because I think what you saw is like, you know, in a venue that people wanted comedy, loved comedy, were there for comedy, comics killing. And then you come to Toronto or anywhere else and, you know, not all shows are like that. You know, sometimes you're in a bar, a chicken wing hut, you know.
Yeah.
listen, there was some death in Saskatoon, me being one of them.
Right.
Like the worst bomb I had ever felt happened in Saskatoon at about month 3 or so of me doing stand-up, maybe month 4. And yeah, that was, I mean, there was some death, and I watched people like Gary David just walk off the stage because he's like, you don't want to hear from me, and he just left at this like later night show, and he was doing okay, and he was just like, no, he talked himself out of it. Right. And then Vaudry as well had an issue with hard to believe.
Yeah.
So it was a French-speaking group that wanted to come in for a show, and he's like, I don't speak French. I'm from Montreal, but I don't speak French. So yeah, I watched some death. I watched some amateurs die, some horrible deaths on certain shows. So it wasn't always like great.
Okay.
I mean, I also went to Moose Jaw. We also went to Prince Albert. So those were shows that happened and you would see people dying. And then you came to Toronto.
Do people in Prince Albert ever go, why is that cock ring named after us? Why couldn't it be called the Moose Jaw?
They should they should wear that with pride.
No, that's
now,
maybe. Who knows? But
I sort of had the same thing. I think the very first show I ever did was at the Laugh Resort, and it happened to be a Just for Laughs showcase. And this is my very first time on stage, and and the manager of the club, even on a Just for Laughs showcase, would always throw on two amateurs because the show was on a Tuesday, and I think that the showcase at Yucks was on a Monday or something like that. And so I remember going on, doing surprisingly okay for my first time. I know it's a very cliche thing to say, and then I bombed for years. But then it was like, but then I remember having that moment of like, oh my God, is every show like this?
Right.
Because it was like literally like, Tim Steves, Brent Butts, like Mark Farrell, all these big headliners were all on one night, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God. And then you go back another night and you're like, oh shit, maybe not. In your early years, because I mean, I don't think I'm stepping out of line if I say that you have a bit of a reputation sort of being as like one of the guys sort of as a sort of a thing. Like, did that in your early years ever backfire on you? With some male comics and even having to tell them like, hey guys, that's not cool, or shut the fuck up.
Like you're going too far. Like, I know I'm one of the guys, but I'm also a lady here. And maybe you're I don't want to hear this kind of shit.
No, I never had an issue with things that were said.
Right.
Sometimes things that were done, I had a problem with, but as far as things that were said, I'd just be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't offend me when guys say certain things. I'm trying to think what it is. I can't figure out what it is that offends me. At some point, there is things that'll tweak me and be like I heard a guy doing a joke about fat chicks the other day, and I'm like, where's the end to the joke? Like, if you're going to make a comment about, you can't keep up with fucking fat chicks or whatever, there's got to be an end to the joke. You've got to have an end to it. Don't just say that as a statement. Now you're just, having your
it's like nostalgia based humor. Okay, you've brought up Simon or Snakes and Ladders. That's the only thing that's triggering the audience. There's no joke attached to it. Same thing with topics. If you're just saying fat chicks and expecting the audience to laugh, I mean, if I'm in the crowd and I see a crowd laugh at just the term fat chicks, I'm hating that crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I also find it always funny whenever I've seen comics go on stage and go be like, I love fat chicks, but I'm always sort of like, well, would you say that to them? I'm just like, what I like about you, you're a fat chick. And I know, and this is coming from me. So it's just, I mean, that's not a term anyone likes to hear. I mean, even though there's like a sort of a body positive sort of movement, which I always kind of find kind of bullshit in some ways, because it's sort of like that Jennifer Hudson had, she was like, oh, we love her so much. And then she kind of disappeared for a while. And then the next time we see her, she's a Weight Watchers spokesperson. And we're celebrating the fact that she's lost all this weight. But didn't we love her for that in the first place?
Right.
It's sort of like, I mean, I'm sure that's going to happen to Lizzo at some point.
The same thing with Adele. Like Adele, everybody was like, we loved you because you were fat and you represented us. And she's like, no, I'm just trying to be healthy.
Right.
Like,
or Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson's another one.
Rebel Wilson as well. Yeah. And it's just like, well, it's not a matter of, I don't know. Sometimes I've said it as well. Why can't you just love me for who I am on the inside when I was younger? Right.
Right.
I'm a good person on the inside. Why are you always commenting about? Because I wasn't really that fat growing up. I was a big kid. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm a woman and high school. And I mean, I think I was a size 12, and fuck, I would love to be a size 12 again. That'd be amazing.
Right.
But those are the hardest things to come back against when you're on stage. And I would get that a lot as a woman on stage.
Yeah.
The fat comments, or because I was making a comment about how my pants weren't long enough in Kitchener one time. And the guy's like, that's because you're fucking fat.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that got to do with it? What on earth? And then I just unleashed, and it wasn't funny anymore. I just got so angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Although the crowd was backing me on it.
Sure.
I was furious about it.
Yeah.
I was just like, it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's always the biggest heckle that you will get from men and from women. I got the heckle from a woman once in Edmonton about how fucking fat I was.
Right.
And I was like, and then all of her friends kicked her out. Like they told her to leave. So the table, they were like so embarrassed by it. And And until that point, I was having a great show, and then she was just mad that I was getting the attention and she wasn't. So
the reason I never understood fat shaming is because at some point, someone in your family's not going to be skinny.
Yeah.
One of your good friends is not going to be skinny.
Yeah.
And, I don't pick my friends based on the way they look. It's what they've done for me and how they make me feel about myself.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with looks or size. So it's like, I don't know anyone. And I see a lot of fat shaming on the internet. It's generally from kids, younger people, who then I think kind of grow out of it because then they, life kind of hits them and realizes that, a comic once called me fat and then became fat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know that comic. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I've never said anything to them, but man, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I've almost wanted to be like, hey, remember when you called me fat and now you're fat, you never know what can happen to you.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those weird things. It's like one of those, even like a food addiction is one of those weird things. Cause I mean, you have to eat. It's not like you don't have to drink. You don't
but
have to smoke pot.
even that, sometimes a lot of weight gain is through medicine.
Yeah.
Like, if you get sick and you have to go on steroids, it's the fucking worst.
Well,
you go on steroids, you balloon up, and everyone just thinks that you're not taking care of yourself because you haven't made the issue public and maybe you don't want to. Like, there's reasons that I'm not saying there isn't reasons where people eat too much and they're fat, but there are reasons that you'd have no idea about. And you're just throwing that around for, to make your buddy laugh in the corner.
Right. No, I just, you're right. I mean, there's medications that can do it to you and that's unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it's like you have to eat. There's so many things that you don't have to do that can affect your body negatively. But I don't know if you were with me, Darren. I think we were in Hamilton once and someone, well, I don't know. Okay. Well, Dan Dunn Dan Dunn came to do a guest set. And I guessed someone in the audience that night, and his set was going okay. But then someone in the audience mentioned that he was a bit fat, and then it was like he suddenly forgot that he was on stage.
Yes,
and then he had this moment of like, well, yeah, I guess I've been trying to lose some weight, but it's not easy for a guy. And then all of a sudden it sounded like he was in like some Food Eaters Anonymous meeting.
Right.
And it was just like, Dan, you're still on stage. Stay in character.
Yeah. Don't make the break. Yeah.
It just then it slowly started going downhill.
Because at the end of the day, I've always said a lot of comics are broken children. And if you start using the things that kind of broke them down against them, they resort back to that time. So Absolutely. I'm sure that Dan struggled with weight a lot of his life. And that's the one thing he's trying to control and can't. And, I wasn't fat as a child. So when people make fun of me now of my size, it's not that big of a deal. But if I was a bigger child and I'm still struggling with it, yeah, you're going to, you bring up a raccoon, you see how I get, bring up, being fat to someone who was fat as a child, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wasn't gigantic as a kid or anything like that, but then I was definitely made fun of for being fat. But then if I see a photograph of me it's like that old meme that was like, I wish I was as big as I was when I first thought I was fat.
Well, yeah, it's like Shannon already said, like if she could go back to being size 12, she'd be happy about it. But back then she was shamed for it.
Yeah. But I mean, I look at a photo of me when I was like, 17, I was just like, I thought that was fat. Holy shit. I didn't have anything to worry about, but
I think that about every photo of myself. Like the first time you do like some show and people have taken pictures, you're like, oh, I look like shit. And then you go back like 2 years later, you're like, oh, actually I look pretty good in that.
Yeah.
What I was
well, that's why I always hate if I ever have to go on and try a pair of glasses on anywhere, I absolutely hate it because I'll put on the glasses and then the last thing I'll see in the mirror are the glasses that I'm trying to buy a new pair of. I'll put on a pair of glasses and be like, oh my God, my hair looks like shit. Oh wow. Oh man, do I look awful today? Why did I wear this? And then I'm like, oh right, the glasses is what I'm here for. But I just, you see everything else, but the one thing that you're supposed to concentrate on.
Hi, this is Bob Scratch Goldfarb. I was really big in the 80s. You're listening to Anything Goes with Darren, Dave, Kathleen on XM Radio's Laugh Attack.
So let's talk about the infamous first tour that you did do. Was that done by train for a fair amount of the travel?
Yeah, for a fair amount, it was done by train. There were some buses, but it was a lot of train, especially through the prairies. And I just remember leaning in the seat and looking out the window. And I used to say, it's so flat. I saw two flies fucking. I mean, it was so, 50 miles away, I could see it. There was nothing there. And, and all that travel, all those hours just to get to, Saskatoon. And that was the big city. And then the Winnipeg and the Regina and then the bad places. And it was right across. We didn't do the Maritimes, but it was a lot of towns, a lot of.
Is there any footage of that tour? Like
no. If there is, I can't even remember who was on that tour. Do you know who exactly was on that?
I know. Obviously, Breslin was on it. Ron Vaudreuil was on it.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. No, he was on the UK tour.
Okay.
He was not anything then.
Evan Carter?
It might have been, but Steve Brinder might have been if he could get out of teaching. Larry Horowitz might have been.
I don't think Brinder was.
Might have been Larry Horowitz, maybe.
Horowitz probably for sure, or Mike McDonald.
It might have been Mike McDonald, but I know he was on tour with me in Winnipeg. Got a story about that. And Mike and I have talked it out, and we ended his life.
A lot of people had to talk it out with Mike. I get it.
Well, and he was willing to. Too.
Yeah.
At the end, which was great.
To his credit, yes.
To his credit, absolutely. I can't remember, but it was like maybe Nip and Tuck even might have been on that tour. You'd have to ask Mark and find that out.
I'll find it. We'll find out.
Yeah, because I couldn't find any press because all the press was of me featuring in my shows, like right from 1975, 78, 80, and I sent you all the clips. There was tons of them, right?
Yes.
But there was nothing about that tour, but there was in Scotland, and that was, now I forget the year of the Scotland tour, of the Scotsman of the UK tour for the Mayfest Festival. That was the end of the tour, was to be in Glasgow for the Mayfest Festival, even though we landed in London and did some bars there, and Vaudreuil was there doing, oh my God, screaming on stage going, anarchy, anarchy. And he wasn't getting the laughs he wanted. And
I think that still happens today.
How could that happen? And then we went to Edinburgh. That was great.
Right.
Loved it. Quaint stages, good audiences. Didn't understand a word anybody said still. But Glasgow was the best. And I got a fantastic review, and it was really great. And that was Vaudreuil, Glenn Foster, and me. And Glenn Foster brought his wife.
I'm glad you're the one here right now.
I am too.
Of those three names, yeah.
The lady you're about to meet may rank up there with these great names.
She is one of a relatively small breed still of successful up-and-coming comedians in this country.
Please welcome one of Canada's newest bleeping comedians, Marla Lukofsky. Welcome, Marla Lukofsky.
Her name is Marla Lukofsky. Would you please welcome her now?
A lot of people say I have a voluptuous body. You can always spot me in the summertime. I'm the one walking down the beach with my thighs applauding. Friction here, girls. Sparks flying, and people with cigarettes, no matches, chasing me for a light. Aunt Clara from Bewitched. You think I have a big nose, don't you? Small face. I was born with my father's eyes and my mother's mouth and both my parents' noses, you see. So my friends will not invite me to cocaine parties anymore, Oh, you're into that. That's nice. Expensive. Suction's incredible, Took one snort of that snow, and went all the cocaine, the cat, the bedspread, 2 kids, and the mother. The Supremes without Diana. Stop! Baby. Mississauga. Ah, the girl from Mississauga goes walking. She's short, fat, and hairy. Her knees are knocking, her bum is sagging, and all the boys say, Donna Summer. Ooh, love to love you, baby. Ooh, love to love you, baby. Ooh, love to love you, baby. That's right. Jehovah Witness. I know you're home.
I deal the same way as Marla a lot, in the way of, I think we both deal in absurdity, like we're known as off-the-wall comics, you know what I'm saying?
It's true. It's all changing.
Land. I'd like to welcome you, Dorothy. Let's go boogie, push, push, in the bush. Let me hit, free. Here represent she's a little man, and she's lady, not so fairly dead. Oh, you have a grow, Dorothy.
You know, my hair is terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean...
Well, that's right. But it is. So I went to the hairdresser the other day, and I said, Bruce, they're all called Bruce. I said, Bruce, give me the Barbra Streisand look. So he took the brush and broke my nose. But I loved it. I went back to the hairdresser. I said, give me the Joan Crawford look. He took the brush and hit my kids. Me. I went back to the hairdresser. I said, give me the Princess Anne look. He took the brush, threw it out the window, said, fetch. I want kids.
You know, yeah. Marla, you do Joan Rivers so well.
How well?
You do it so well,
yeah.
I'm going to let you guest host this show Sunday night. Fortunately, we're not on Sunday nights.
Grow up! A fly hitting a windshield. Just mention some of my dates. He took me out to Baskin Robbins for a milkshake with 2 straws, and I thought that was really romantic. It was for each nostril. See? And Ethel Merman, as a child, whispering, "What?" Okay. Thank you very much. You've been a pleasure. Thank
you. How long were you doing comedy full time, just stand up? I know you were dabbling in acting at the same time, but at what time in your life did you stop doing kind of like road dog work?
So I started doing stand-up before I was doing acting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So I was doing stand-up. I was a secretary. I was a law clerk for my father's company.
Right.
I was a law clerk before that. And, but it was...
Oh, can you get me out of some tickets?
No.
Okay.
I was doing more real estate than anything of the law.
Right.
I started stand-up in grade 10. So I was going to high school and started all that stuff. So it was really, the clubs hadn't formed yet, but I had the guitar and doing the funny thing. So I was doing every folk club who had a comedy night. And then in 1975, Friar's Tavern started with Gene Taylor. And so it was Larry Horowitz and me, Art Nevsky, Rick Moranis, Rob Cowan. And that was really the beginning. And then Harborfront. With Don Cullen and Mark Breslin. And then I was doing that with that. And it was a lot of the guitar and then the stand-up and the impressions. And
did you find that you were doing more guitar and then jokes and they kind of switched and then you were just quickly phasing out the guitar?
Yeah.
Because you found people gravitating?
I'll tell you what happened. I got the Alan Thicke show. So I was doing this incredible gig in Vancouver, and I had 3 shows a night, all different material. So that helped with the music and stuff. But it was like this one woman cabaret show, 3 sets a night. It was crazy. Same audience. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Somebody was there from the Alan Thicke show. Said, we've got to have you on the show. So they booked me while I was there in Vancouver. And I lost my voice because I was performing for 3 hours every night. Yes. And so I could talk like this. But I couldn't, and you can see the clips if you watch my Lukofsky on the Alan Thicke show. Yeah. I have this little bit of, but I couldn't sing. So that was the first time I performed without a guitar. So I was a little nervous. I felt naked. It was really weird because it's just a great warm up. Gets people into things, and then I always put it down, and then I go for it. But I thought traveling was easier without it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doing lots of, if it was a long set, I'd do the guitar with the jokes and the impressions. And if it was a short set, I didn't bring the guitar eventually at some point, and it cuts down on one mic because both pairs of lips talk, so I need 2 mics there. So I phased it out because of the laryngitis and realized that I had plenty of material, didn't really need it. I just liked it as a buffer, and it was a nice warm-up thing. So, but that's what I did.
So do you remember roughly what year you stopped being on the road as a comic and doing more acting and voice work? And because you were 16 when you started, so how old were you when you probably?
Well, so I got the acting agent. I was probably 21, and I said I want to do voice work and stuff. Oh, that was really hard to get a voice agent. So I just made my own voice tape, sent it out. Got the Care Bears, first gig, boom, great, and it went on and on from there. And then I started to get booked for things at the time where I didn't even have to audition because they don't like me so much. Let's call Marla back. Let's give her a character and sing things. Let's give her a character in this and this and this. So I was simultaneously, who wouldn't want that? That's what I wanted. I wanted everything. I wanted what Jim Carrey has. And he wasn't even on the scene yet. He was just up and coming. Right. But I can tell you exactly the time when I thought, I can't do the road work anymore. And I was in Niagara Falls. And I had performed for, 150 people. And I was staying at the lousiest motel that had.
Oh, that's a lot of people. Keep going.
That's one of smaller crowds, but toenail clippings of somebody else's, not mine, in the bed. And I was crying. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I did a show. Everybody was laughing. And I go back to this lousy, dingy, awful motel room, and I'm lonely, I'm depressed, and going, I can't do the road anymore. It's depressing. It's bringing me down. And so I told Yuckix, I can't do the road anymore. Just give me anything in the city, anything. I don't care. And boy, they sent me to, industrial parts of Toronto. And I've got some clipping ads of them, me and Morgan Stern and stuff. Oh my God. For 45 minutes, they just said, fuck off, go home, fuck off, go home. And I said, one more fuck off, I'm going to tack on 10 more minutes. I can do an hour. Fuck off. Okay, I'm doing an hour and a half. That's fine by me. And I just stayed on stage and kept doing it. And that was it. And so Yuckix was not happy because I was one of the few comics with a car and I could drive people to their gigs that I just couldn't do on the road anymore, unless it was United States. And so I was doing Washington, D.C. and Detroit and San Francisco and started to get bookings on my own. In Vancouver, kept wanting me back. And that's different. Doing gigs like that was high end, good money.
Where they want you, they're going to take care of you.
They want you, they took care of me, nice hotel, nice treatment. It was worth it.
There's something called a per diem. Yeah.
It was nice, right? So I totally would never turn that down. Right. But these, Wawa and Sudbury, no. Right. I couldn't do it anymore. It was. Some comics love it. I know. I never did.
Well, I don't know how many comics love Wawa other than people.
No, that's true.
Yeah. But I do know what you're saying. But even as far as going back to some of the clubs, we were just talking to another comic that had a horrible story about getting attacked on stage in Niagara Falls. Yeah. And I don't think, even I have stories about asking a security guard at the casino to walk me to my car.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I love it. Everybody has a bad story about Niagara Falls. No matter if it's the old club, Darren does, or the new club, or
that's good. Okay. I've got some great ones for you. First time I was called a dirty Jewess was in Barrie, Ontario.
Whoa,
the
that's
only
where I am right now.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
there right now.
Oh, wow.
That's why I wore this white shirt. Keep talking.
White on white, Darren.
I was called the same thing, so don't take it too hard.
Barry's not that smart.
Well, the only way to deal with it at the time, I just said, thank you for calling me Jewish, because some people think I'm a boy, so that's good. That's a plus.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, I felt feminine at the time. Okay, that was great. But when I played Calgary, I had a handful of coins thrust at me, and so I had the guitar, so I protected my face and went ding, 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 and I said, hey, bus money. Great, I get to go home. Okay. And I've had a roll of toilet paper thrown at me. In Calgary, there's a lot of stuff at Calgary being thrown, and beer bottles. Yeah. It's really, you know, I mean, you're the target.
Well,
you're
not
the
to,
sitting duck.
Yeah, not to date myself, but I remember when McDonald's had those, or this particular club had a surplus of those old McDonald's the aluminum ashtrays that McDonald's used to have.
Yeah.
I remember just like maybe about 5 of those getting all thrown at me like a bunch of Frisbees. And that's, you know, you don't know if like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That it is a bad thing. So,
But you know, Darren, I mean, I kept still doing stand-up as much as I could.
Right.
And then there was that gap where Yuck Yucks didn't. And then at the time, CBC called me. And I was doing a couple of
midday, right?
Yeah, I'd started to do 100 episodes for midday. But before that, I was doing 3 radio shows at CBC Radio. And that's where I was doing 3-minute movies for Arthur Black's show, Basic Black. And then movie reviews for Erica Ritter. And, oh God, I'm going blank on, I forget her name. She's great. She had her own show. She was fantastic.
But you kept bobbing.
I kept bobbing and bobbing. And then whoever gave me the gig, I'd do it and I'd do it. And then I thought, it's time before I get too old. I was 34. I went to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, by the time I got there, they said, you're old for LA terms. But I just grinned and bared it. And I started at the hardcore stand-up clubs, but I could see they were putting me on at 1 or 2 in the morning. So this is a waste of time. I heard about a cabaret place. I went and did it, killed. Sherry Shepherd was on. Nobody knew who she was at the time. I was on. I was killing. It became my room. It was fantastic. And then, but it's so weird in LA. And they had little comedy competitions in Orange County and, you know, places, you know, Alhambra.
La Jolla.
Exactly. In the bars. So I'd go. I'd find a friend. Hey, will you come with me? It's a 2-hour drive, you know. And I'd win every time. You know, I'd get $50 or something. And it's like, sure, it's not like in Toronto where you get your 200, your 300, and that's great. But that's the way it was. And got an acting agent, got a this agent, that agent. Things never happened the way it was happening for me here, which was unfortunate. But I loved LA and I loved the weather and I loved the lifestyle. And then I got cancer. And then I had the best medical treatment I've ever had in my life that made everything look shameful here. So I was so glad that I was there. And I had health insurance that I bought. I was so glad I was there because it's just not like that here. So it was all meant to be. And I still love LA and I still want to go back to visit and maybe part-time live there. Who knows at this time, but everything's weird now. But I always still wanted to do, here's the thing, here's the truth. I was doing stand-up until the earthquake happened. And when the earthquake happened, I was in my building in Los Angeles and my building lifted up and went sideways and I crawled out and I couldn't remember anything. And that's what happened. I couldn't remember my act. I couldn't remember my phone numbers, my codes to my bank account. But I did call the Toronto post office and said, don't send my mail here anymore because there's no building. And I had a stutter and I was a mess.
What year was that?
That was 1994.
Right.
And so it was really hard. I remember the first time I tried stand-up, it was like a year later, and I was sitting there looking at my demo tapes, trying to learn my act. And it was like, it was never that easy ever again. I was really learning from watching me from another time because I went into shock, and it was a very terrible time in LA because I lived in the Valley. Everything was destroyed. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were wandering the streets. There was no electricity. There was no water. You were lucky if somebody took you in. And it was a very bad time. And then 4 years later, I had major chemotherapy, which fucked with my brain again. And it was once I just started to learn my act again, it happened again. And as I was recuperating, I'd have some friends visit and they'd say something. And I'd say, that's funny. Whose is it? You know how we say, whose is it? And they said,
right.
Yours.
Right.
Said, that's funny. It says, you were funny. You are funny. And you'll be funny again, Marla. You know? Yes, thank you, girl. You know, so, and I was, and I did. And so since I came back to Toronto, I've done guest spots with, you know, Kenny or with Martha Chavez or something.
Martha,
and I did really well, like really well. But it was like, can I memorize the 10 minutes? And I did.
Hang on. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Listen up out there. This is Jeremy Haas and Pat Thornton, and you're listening to Darren Frost and Dave Martin on Anything Goes on Canada Laughs.
But
when did you switch over to jazz though? Have you always been into jazz, or it just kind of you fell into it?
I fell into it. Because I always sang in my act, right, with the guitar.
Yeah.
And I was doing, because of the cancer thing, I started becoming a public speaker, doing these cancer shows, and the show was fantastic.
It was like a one-woman show, right?
Yeah, called I'm Still Here and So Is My Hair. But because it was going for several years, I had to say I'm still here and so is my hair, but now it's growing on my chin. So I just kept doing that. And then I did this show, and this one woman who was hired to be the MC said, aren't you that funny comedian who does the Wizard of Oz in 3 minutes? You're really funny. And I remember you used to sing in your act. You were really good. I said, well, thank you. I miss singing. She says, there's a jazz club not far from here. It's on Marley. And we get together every Wednesday night with a trio of musicians, and they're the top musicians in Toronto. And you just come and bring your sheet music. And so I did. And that changed everything. And I had this third leg of my life where people going, wow, you're a good singer, but you've got this thing, this stage presence. You're kind of funny on stage too, with almost not even trying to. And it was like, and somebody said, she's that comedian who did the Wizard, you know, and it's like, so that started. So I started that in 2014 and had my first booking in 2015. And I did that right up until COVID. And then I started to get great reviews in that too. And I was getting great reviews as a speaker. And so it was all these different legs of stuff that all the comedy was always intertwined in, because doing stand-up can be a powerful, powerful tool.
Sure. Well, one of the things I've always had a problem with Jan Arden. I like Jan Arden, don't get me wrong. But if I read another, I've said this before on the show, if I read another goddamn review of Jan Arden where it says, she's so funny, she could give some comedians a run for their money.
Wow. Well, she is funny. She is funny.
Don't get me wrong. Jan is funny, but she's playing to her core fans who already like her. It's not like a bunch of strangers or they have no idea what they're getting. They already like her. That's half the battle. It's like you said.
So true.
When you have a guitar and they kind of get on your side and they like you, and then you start talking, they're into you more, you know? And the same thing with jazz. You did it the exact opposite, of course. You were funny first and then went into jazz, but I'm sure you're probably the funniest jazz person there that night.
I am.
You know,
and still am. Yeah.
Right. But that's great because you were a stand-up comic. And like I said, I don't blame Jan, but I'm like, that's just bad reporting. It's like, you know, that's like me going to karaoke, singing one song great and going, I could give Jan Arden a run for her money. You know?
Well, it's not even a nice comment. It may be a pat on her back, but nobody should say she could give, you know, stand-ups a run for their money and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's not a polite thing to say to all the stand-ups who've dedicated and done exactly what you said.
And Jan wouldn't be happy about that either. Like I said,
right.
I met her
I'm
before.
sure she
She's
would.
Really nice.
Right.
You know, but I'm just like, oh my God. It's like, you know what? My kid scrapes their knee. I can put a Band-Aid on. I'm not going to go work at Sick Kids Hospital now and say, doctor, out of the way. I know how to fix this.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. And I love her music too. Yeah.
Well, we have just a couple more minutes left. So obviously COVID has affected things, but in the future, when things kind of get back to say normal, are you just concentrating on the jazz? Are you still doing the one-woman show? What's going on with you?
No, I didn't get any more bookings after a certain amount of years. And because it was pouring in, I didn't really know, I don't have an agent for that. So I don't really know how to get that going again. And jazz, I will certainly try to get back in, but all the clubs are out of business now.
Yeah,
So it's very difficult. Emmett Ray is still running, but I don't know. But what I did do when it started right away at COVID, I started to make funny videos, which I love because I love editing. I love the writing.
Right.
And so I started to do tons of funny stuff that started YouTube. I later on went on to TikTok. Then I started to re-edit my YouTubes to fit TikTok because there was more viewership, right?
Yes.
And Instagram and stuff. So I was busy cooking videos, funny, like, you know, I do the first month, it's the first month, and I had facial hair I taped all over my face. I think I'm doing really well, and I was thought of going to Shoppers Drug Mart, and I think I look really good. I better make sure I put on my lipstick because, you know, want to look like I'm okay. And I had beards and everything. And
right.
It's a really great video. And then I have one of me. I ran out of facial masks, so I found a new one and I put on my Depends diaper. And I said, it's really good. And you just put a little lipstick on the crotch part, and, you know, and it's you know, it's affordable and lasts a long time. And
perfect 20, 30-second video for
TikTok.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So that's what I was doing because it was helping my sense of humor come out and my creativity.
Yeah, good
right?
for your mental
we all
health.
like to be, it was really getting me out. And now it's like, I'm tired of doing those videos now. It's like, that was a lot of production. That was hours of production for,
that's the problem. Once you feed the monkey, you got to keep feeding that monkey.
Yeah.
That's the thing with
That's
TikTok
like
or
podcasts.
Yes. You just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it,
Right.
and hopefully it comes. But yeah.
Yeah, longevity
And
is the key.
If people want to get a hold of you or find you, so give it to us now. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Is it Twitter, TikTok? What's your handle on all those?
We'll put them up on the screen. We can always
Yeah.
find them through your website and stuff. And
I have a great YouTube page. I do have Twitter, but nobody writes me on that except hate mail. I got a hate Jew thing on TikTok, my last thing, and all I did was do TikTok, and I got get the Jew. Okay, this is nice. Okay, so I blocked
that might have been
them.
from Barrie, Ontario. I don't want to.
That or Calgary.
There, but
yeah, Calgary. I got a lot of hate mail when I was on midday going, get the Jew off the. And I'm like, I'm not going on a CBC saying, hi, I'm Jewish. So it's just this. I don't know. So my email and yeah, YouTube, Facebook.
Racist, sexist humor, is that what Canadians want?
Basically, on the whole, maybe 90% of them do, especially up in the northern area as opposed to the central, you know, metropolises of our world. I was in Barrie, Ontario once, and I was performing my act, doing my regular act, and out of the blue came someone calling me a dirty Jewess. I haven't even heard the term. I didn't know what Jewess was.
It's a female
but I
version
knew
of
it was
Jew.
bad.
That was more than one Jew.
And I
Very funny.
It's pretty good, but I think that's what you mean. But that, of course, offended me and frightened me. And for the first time, I was frightened on stage and just continued with my act. But obviously, there's a lot of hatred out there, and I don't mention that I'm Jewish on stage, so it bothered me.